Today we have with us Nitasha Ali, who came to IGNOU to participate in the International Conference on Migration and Diasporas, Emerging Diversities and Development Challenges. So, she is with us in connection with the paper presentation, whose paper's title is Indo-Canadian Fijian. So, this paper is very interesting. Now, I will ask Nitasha Ali to briefly introduce herself.
I'm a doctoral candidate at the University of Manitoba in the anthropology department. My research is with Indo-Fijian females in Vancouver and their experiences of growing up in two different cultures, that of Canadian culture and Indo-Fijian culture.
So, Nitasha, I just want to know, can you have the memory of your forefathers' migration to Fiji? Can you tell briefly about that?
So, my ancestors are from India. They migrated as indentured laborers to work on the sugarcane factories in Fiji. My parents and my grandparents were all born in Fiji, as well as I was also born in Fiji. And when I was 4 years old, we migrated to Canada.
So, in Canada, what are the occupation your parents are doing?
My mother is a cartographer, and then she moved on into the nursing field, and my father was a manager of a gas station.
Okay. In one of my articles in 2001, I covered about the crisis of Fiji. Fiji actually experienced 3 to 4 coups, and in that the outcome was very bad for Indians there. One is with Mahendra Chaudhary when he was Prime Minister, and before that 2 coups were there. In that, Indians suffered a lot. Yeah. Can you give some remark on that?
So, I think the 2 major coups that you're talking about was in 1987, which actually led to the migration of a lot of Indo-Fijians to other places around the world, such as Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand, because there was a lot of social and political unrest between the native Fijians and the Indo-Fijians. And they didn't feel safe anymore. Indo-Fijians didn't feel safe, so that's why they migrated to other parts of the world.
Do they now relate with Fiji now, or they still think Fiji we cannot go back?
There's a lot of people that still have relatives that remained in Fiji, but mostly people have migrated outside of Fiji.
Okay. So when you are a migrant and also you think of Indo-Fijian origin, which is your real imaginary home? Means imaginary home you relate. Do you relate to India or Fiji?
Myself?
Yes.
I relate more to Fiji because that's where my parents were born and that's where I was born. And also because I didn't know much about India until I came to this conference, really. So I would say I relate more to Fiji.
Okay. Yeah. So now your parents are also here in India, you are also here. So how do you feel? Do you feel little homely, or you feel it is like any other country where people are not so receptive?
I feel a little bit homely just because I do understand the language, as opposed to if I went to somewhere else around the world. So I feel with some locals I can understand them because we speak the same language, we have the same kind of culture. So.
You talked about internal displacement in Fiji, about Indo-Fijian. Can you elaborate that? So
I'm actually talking about displacement among Indo-Fijian girls in Canada. So the displacement that I'm talking about is their identity, in a sense. They don't know where they come from because they don't know much about India, and then their parents have migrated to Canada, so they don't know much about Fiji. So it's a double displacement identity, which they have to kind of manipulate and maneuver to try and create their own identity in Canada. And that becomes difficult because then you have Canadian norms and then Fijian norms, and how are you supposed to create an identity throughout the both?
You know, in India we have something called caste system. It's endogamous in marriage, and there are very bad things also in caste system like untouchability. Do you have any such practice in Fiji?
Not with the caste system. I think that went away with the migration to Fiji, but we do have like a religious-based system. So there are different religions still in Fiji. Number one being Islam, and then Hinduism, and also Christianity. So I think that plays within the caste system there.
Okay, so it is not social structural, rather more religious. Okay,
Yes.
so religious divide is there. Okay, so next question is in Canada, what is the, as an outsider, you are feeling outsider as an outsider, or you are now feeling as insider?
That's what actually my paper was all about, is Canada, its aim was to include all of immigrants and through multiculturalism as an official policy. But what I've been noticing within my own research is multiculturalism is a good policy, but it actually doesn't take into consideration about racism or how immigrants are actually told to look upon themselves based on their pre-migration ethnicity. So in a sense, multiculturalism is not working, is what I argue so far in my research.
Okay, so do have some Indians are there, plenty of Indians, especially from Punjab are there in Canada.
Yes.
They are very prominent in politics also.
Yes.
You know, some of the ministers are from Punjab origin.
Yes.
So how do you relate, being you are from Punjab origin and Punjabis are very dominant there, do you have some ethnic commonality there, you socially associate with them?
There is ethnic commonality there for sure with Indo-Fijians and Indians in Canada, but there is a difference also, because I think once we migrated to Fiji, our culture changed a little bit. So then when we went back, when we went to Canada, our culture is different than the Indian culture in Canada. So there is commonality with dress code and all that stuff. So we do still shop at like Indian stores in like Punjabi town is what we call it. But there is a difference as well that's very visible.
Since you are doing PhD on multiculturalism, on migration or diaspora, what is your perception about the future of the research on this area?
I believe it's very positive, because I noticed in my own research that there wasn't any major literature in academia with Indo-Fijians, especially in North America. So I feel like I'm filling in that void. Well, I'm hoping to fill in that void anyway. So.
Okay. So thank you, Natasha, for sharing so many important information and analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.